Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. And we certainly are. And we're always happy to say hello to a few friends as you come on live this morning. We understand not everyone can watch us live. Yesterday was particularly good. By noon, I think we were up to about 10,000 views. And there was Brahim, the three. Brahim, Mike, Andrea, the Trinity, Sandy, Jude, how are you from Troy? Jude, you're getting right up there, right at the top. Janice, always near the top. Eric, bonjour. Lynn from Aurora. And Marilyn from PEI. Good morning this morning to you guys. Nativity, how are you? Fran, dear friend from Orangeville. Nick from our staff. And Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Hi, Cheryl. How you doing? Marilyn from Kelowna, bright and early there. Helga, good morning to you. Donna, Park Hill, big friends of this program. Deb, how are you? Lori and Ryan are friends from Sarasota, Florida. Jeanette, Nellie, good morning to you. Carol, West Virginia. Carol, I want to sing this morning. Sharon, Anna, how are you? And John and Linda in Fenland Falls. And another Linda in St. Jude, Quebec. Good morning to you. Lori from Niagara Falls. Sandy, Vancouver, Washington. Luella, West Tennessee. Rosalinda, Mary, PEI, Yolande, bonjour. This morning. And I think that's Helga, Janine, Leela, Werner. I know where Werner is. Cheryl is saying it's so cold. Jeanette and Sandy, two Sandys in a row. And there's Doc McEwen from West Tennessee, the University of Tennessee. Kathy, Rita, Frozen Excess. Brahim is saying hello to others. Rain, Cloud, how are you? And Norma and Linda from Uppsala. And Grace, good morning to you. And Marlis, how are you? And Betty Lynn from Brantford, how are you, Marilyn? And Marilyn and Wendy, it was in the clouds. And Carol from Michigan, and Patricia, and Mary from Gander, Newfoundland. Karen, good morning. Two Karens in a row. And Karen, how are you? And Wanda from Virginia, and Verna from Utah, Lori from Alberta, and Patricia from Florida, Debraka from Mississauga. Lori. Okay, two more. Sherry. You want me to sing, don't you, Sherry? Sue, how are you? Dave, how are you? Okay, now, let's get to a couple of studies that I want to talk about this morning. Now, one thing, okay, because yesterday we talked about deficiencies and the benefits of combining omega-3 and vitamin D. Okay, we talked about that yesterday, and you know how much I love those two. Vitamin D, the sun. Now, just because someone asked me this after the program yesterday, and I saw it in the scroll, like, why am I deficient in vitamin D? One of the reasons, okay, I'm just talking about a general reason. This study I brought to you a few years ago, and that was, you know what high fructose corn syrup does? It decreases your ability to absorb vitamin D. Who knew? I brought this to you maybe about a year ago or maybe less. But high fructose corn syrup, you know how much I hate it. You know how often I talk about it. And whenever you see added sugars to anything, they're adding sugar. From yogurt to cookies to ice cream to whatever. They're adding sugar. You can almost bet your boots that it's high fructose corn syrup. Because it's cheap, it's addictive, and don't fool yourself. When you read, guys, read labels. It's important. I shouldn't say I don't care. I really don't care about calories. Who cares? But when you read a label, check and see if there's any added sugar to it, okay? And if it is, you just assume that it's high fructose corn syrup they're using. They'll couch it with 99 different names, okay? And I've been talking about that for a year. They get away with it, labeling. But you read the labels and look in behind the scenes of that label, you'll understand it. Now, we talk about it a lot, okay? But remember, just because somebody was asking, they said, well, one of the reasons you might not realize that is with your diet, when you're consuming too much high fructose corn syrup, you're not absorbing vitamin D. And there's two reasons for it. They both have to do with enzymes. And one of the enzymes that you produce to break down fructose and to send it into your liver is an enzyme needed to absorb vitamin D. So there's enzymes involved there. Anywho, I just thought I'd bring that to you because somebody was asking after or during the program yesterday about that. Okay, so we talked about the importance of vitamin D and whatever. This morning, I just want to, somebody, again, it's sort of question and answer because I want to talk about pre-diabetes this morning, okay? And we sort of touched on this yesterday. They're really, to be honest, okay, to really look at it scientifically, there's really no such thing as pre-diabetes. Okay, so I just want to do a little bit of I remember studying Dr. Joseph Kraft. Now, not Kraft Dinner. We talked about him last week. Okay, but he didn't really believe in pre-diabetes. Okay, he talked about it, but it wasn't because he was just saying, "Nah, you're already a diabetic." So keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. And I talk to you again and again about, they do the blood test, and if your glucose is not at a certain level, well, you're not labeled a diabetic. If it's, above 6 to 6.5, 6.5 and up, they'll call you a pre-diabetic because you haven't hit the threshold to be called a diabetic, but you really are. Because at the end of the day, you're not processing sugar properly. You and carbs are not getting along. This is why, guys, because when they look at metabolic syndrome, remember that. Metabolic syndrome, it's a catastrophe. Because 93%, I think it's 93.2 at the latest statistics on metabolic syndrome. 93% of the population in North America have some form of metabolic syndrome, which is a precursor to all these diseases, including diabetes. But if you think about it, someone that's in that 93% of the population is really a diabetic already. They would, maybe some of them wouldn't even be considered pre-diabetic. Let's just go over again what metabolic syndrome is. How do you diagnose it? Well, you can diagnose it. Get my book, sun, steak, and steel. Okay? I just highly recommend to you, everything I'm saying right now is in that book. And get the book, Sun, Steak, and Steel, and sleep. But I have in there, when I talk about metabolic syndrome, and again and again and again, it's diagnosis. You can diagnose it. You can self-diagnose this if you get a blood test. Or you take your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is elevated, 1. 2, if your triglycerides are elevated. Doctors are looking at cholesterol. I'm looking at triglycerides and HDL cholesterol. You can look at your whole lipid profile, but the key is to get at those triglycerides. And if your triglycerides are high, and goes with it, your HDL is low. They're like a teeter-totter. So if triglycerides are high, your HDL will be low almost invariably. Okay? Almost invariably. So it's important, guys, even if this is not flagged by your physician, you need to flag it. And don't fool yourself. If you got high triglycerides and your HDL is low, you have metabolic syndrome. You have a trouble with carbohydrates, because that's what it means. It means that your insulin, okay, not your sugars. Your sugars might be slightly elevated, but still within normal limits. This is why, guys, when I talk about blood sugar, I'm not sort of talking about like a glucose random. You can take a little prick of your finger and test your blood. Well, that's subject to fluctuation. What I like better is looking at A1C. Okay, that is an average of your blood sugar over 3 or 4 months. Because what happens when sugar stays in your bloodstream, it attaches itself, it glycates hemoglobin, your red blood cell, and you can measure it. And if anything over 5.4, you get in above 5.4, which would be completely normal on a blood test, but it's already an indicator for you and for anyone that looks at it that you're in trouble if it's above 5.4, because you're having trouble with insulin resistance. It's meaning at the cellular level, you can tell. Well, you can do an insulin test too, by the way. You can do an insulin test. I like that. But I'm telling you that usually they don't do that routinely, but they'll do an A1C. Your doctor will do an A1C if you ask them. And find out where you are with your A1C. So what did I talk about? Elevated blood pressure. Elevated blood pressure is almost invariably because you and sugar, you and carbs don't get along. You don't get along. You might like them, but they don't like you. Okay? So just understand that. So elevated blood pressure, elevated triglycerides, low HDL, elevated A1C. And when I say elevated, remember, the line is 5.4. You're 5.4 and below, you're doing pretty good with your insulin. But if you're 5.4 and above, you got trouble. You're on the Titanic. You got metabolic syndrome. You're really what some people classify as a pre-diabetic, but like I said, I don't like that term in a way, because you're already on the Titanic. And I created the reset, guys. the reset, the 30-day program, was to get rid of metabolic syndrome. Lower your insulin. Send your insulin, as you guys know, I said this on my radio show for years, and again on this program, on podcasting, send your pancreas to Hawaii for a month. Let it go on a holiday. You're not on a holiday, but your pancreas is. And if your pancreas goes away on a holiday, your cells at the cellular level going, oh, thank God, my pesky neighbor. They came knocking at the door every day and they're bugging the life out of me. Your cells talking when you're a carboholic. And then you send your pesky neighbor to Hawaii like they're gone. Oh, I thought they'd never leave. But that's what you can do with your body, guys. And let me give you another couple of things, okay? Part of metabolic syndrome is, okay? So elevated uric acid. Again, I'm not even talking about gout. Just if your uric acid levels are elevated, this is new, and you won't read this in most places, but it really is part of metabolic syndrome. Your uric acid is elevated, it's a sign, okay? And you got to look at that stuff. That's why blood work, guys. You can look at blood work. And I'm not in practice, so I'm not looking specifically at your blood work. But I really have spelled it out so that you can look at it and understand it. Okay, you don't have to understand everything there. But I interpret those results for you. And the idea, this is prevention, man. This is prevention. This is you taking control of your health, yourself. And what better way to start? And to understand food. Food is medicine, man. Food. And all of this is food. Metabolic syndrome is you and energy. Okay, that's what it is. Metabolism, metabolic syndrome. It's how your body reacts to food. Energy. Your mitochondria. Your battery packs. And how you process energy, guys. So this is metabolic syndrome. Did I miss anything? Oh, belly fat. Belly fat. People notice on the reset, okay? Now, I highly recommend, by the way, if you're going to do a weight loss program, and I know many in January are on a weight loss program and even on the reset. I think we've got 1,000 people that signed up to get their poker chip. And you can start, okay, to get your poker chip. And with a reward. But guys, the biggest reward is your health, man. The biggest reward is your health. The biggest reward is that you're taking control. You'll feel good about it. Where food isn't controlling you, you're controlling it. Okay? You're controlling it. And it's amazing to me, because I saw it in my practice, guys. Like, what the reset, remember, is not just, hey, does it work? Maybe it doesn't. Does it do this? Remember, I had it in my practice for years. We started the reset with actual people that were diabetic. I didn't give it to anybody except diabetics at first. And it worked so well for them. Those who went home. I used to tell people, look, I can't go home with you. I can't do it for you. I can only tell you what to do. I can only give you a plan to succeed. And then I gave the reset to over 90%. I think it was higher than that, really, especially in the last few years of my days of practice. I used to give the reset for everything. Because if you had any sign of metabolic syndrome, you were on the reset. Start there. Start with that. And here's a couple other things so you got belly fat, you got high blood sugar, high A1C, you know the number. You got even slightly elevated blood pressure. Okay? And you've got elevated triglycerides. And you've got lowered HDL cholesterol. Low cholesterol ain't no good. If you got low HDL cholesterol, you're in doo-doo. You're in trouble. And uric acid, great measurement. And I've added vitamin D to that list. It's amazing to me that people with low vitamin D, when they have high triglycerides and low HDL, guess what else they got low? Vitamin D. Almost invariably. Almost without exception. Vitamin D is a marker. It's a biomarker. And it should be added, in my humble opinion, should be added to that list of metabolic syndrome. If you're low in vitamin D, we talked about this and talked about it. Your immune system doesn't work properly. Your brain doesn't work properly. You can't even get a good night's sleep with low levels of vitamin D. Vitamin D is essential, and everybody and their dog needs it. And the best way to find out is to take a vitamin D blood test. But look, these are not even my statistics on vitamin D. Over 80% of the population have low levels of vitamin D. And guys, when someone says it's low, holy moly. Like, I want optimized vitamin D. We talked about the study with cancer and vitamin D. You got no way of fighting cancer, in my opinion, if you have low vitamin D. And I'm not even I'm talking about preventing cancer, too. Don't even let it get it started. So that metabolic syndrome, guys, the reset was made for that. And really, look, if you want to do intermittent fasting with that, I like it. But I tell you something, you know what I almost called the metabolic syndrome book? Fasting, because fasting, everybody that was phoning me on my radio show was talking about, fasting. And it became like high on the hit parade, fasting. And guys, I like it. But when you eat the right way, you really are fasting without fasting. Because at the end of the day, if your insulin is almost non-existent, you see, let me just say it again for the new folks that are with us. When you eat something, okay, let's follow a donut, just for a second, okay? You eat a donut, high fat, oh, that's good, doc. Wait a minute, I didn't finish. And high carb, the worst combination. That's how they fatten up mice in a lab. They give them rat chow, they call it. You know what it is? It's a donut. They give them a donut because a donut has got fat, but it's got sugar, lots of it. Okay? So what happens? If you have anything that breaks down fast with sugar or bread or pasta or a noodle of any kind, rice, juice, muffins, bagels, oatmeal, it elevates your blood sugar. Really, it spikes your blood sugar. Well, what happens then? Well, now your insulin comes out of, see this pen? Think of a pancreas. Because that's the size of your pancreas that sits right underneath your stomach. And you see inside my pen, I got ink. Inside your pancreas is insulin. And when you eat a muffin or a donut, oh, Dr. Martin, it's whole wheat. It's raisin bran. It's carrot. It's a carrot muffin. Yeah? It's got 8 teaspoons of sugar in it. Okay? The whole fiber craze. That's what I called it, a fiber craze. People got crazy on fiber. Oh, yeah, but muffins have fiber, Dr. Martin. Well, so what? You need insulin and a lot of it. You need insulin and a lot of it when you're eating that stuff. Okay? So that's the response of insulin. That's dangerous because your insulin's got to come in there and take that out of there. It can't let that sugar park in your bloodstream. So the reset is the opposite of that because you're eating meat. You know what meat does? You know what okay, remember, pancreas, and you're eating a piece of meat, or you're having an egg. I just had some eggs. You know what your insulin is doing? You know what your pancreas is doing? I'm just sitting around. I got nothing to do. I don't, because there's no sugar going in the bloodstream when you need an egg. So insulin, the traffic cop, is sitting there and it's whistling because it's going, I got nothing to do. Okay? That's why the reset is so good. That's why I'm not even telling you to stay on it forever. You could. After 30 days, add your non-sugary vegetables. Add some fruit. I don't care. And 90% of your diet, or more, have whole foods. Whole foods are eggs. How many, Doc? I don't care. It don't matter. You want 100? Have 100. I don't care. You can't make me care. Dr. Martin, bacon? Yeah. How much? I don't care. You don't need insulin. You don't need insulin for bacon. A little bit. It's got nothing to do. When it has nothing to do, you're fasting without fasting. What kills you is the toast. Not the butter, the toast. Put the butter on your eggs. Cook with butter. and then lather up your steak with butter. Don't put your butter on toast. The toast will kill you. And I don't care what kind of bread it is. It's Dr. Martin. I used to hear it in my office. It's 12 grain. I don't care. It ain't no good for you. You're on the Titanic. You're in trouble. Turn the ship around. Or jump in. Some people, I had to get them jumping into the lifeboat. Okay? I want to encourage you guys. This is science, guys. What do I mean by that? We can prove it. You prove it with blood work. We can prove the metabolic reset works. We can prove it. Your A1C is going down. Read the testimonies of the reset. They're incredible. A1C is going down. Triglycerides are going down. Your good cholesterol, your HDL, it's all good cholesterol, by the way. Okay. HDL is going up. Your blood pressure is coming down. Your blood sugar on A1C. Your uric acid's coming down. Your vitamin D is going up. And you gotta take vitamin D in the winter. Okay? For sure. Guys, this is metabolic syndrome. It's what I talk about all the time. And it's what? It's food. I said to someone yesterday, you got to eat anyways. Right? You have to eat. Well, fasting. Doc, I'm fasting. Well, you going to fast forever? You're never going to eat? Like I said, you want to fast? Okay. But you can't live on fasting. But you can live on eggs, meat, and cheese. You can live on good dairy. You can live on it. And it's actually the best thing to do. Okay? It's the best thing to do. Because you're eating nutrient-dense food too. And it'll actually, like I said, it's at the speed of which food breaks down is the key to your insulin. Got the memo? Okay. Guys, send in your questions, okay? Because I just answered a lot of people's questions today. Okay? And if you want the numbers that I talked about, get the book, Sun, Steak, and Steel. Okay? I wrote that book for you guys. Okay? So that you have references. You can reference. Very important. Blood work. Got it? Okay. Love you guys. More than you know. Question and answer Friday's coming up soon. So send in your questions. We love you dearly. Talk to you soon.